If I Were You is out, and here it is. And you're going to be seeing Amy and Flynn, and they are in very different they're in the relationship, they're having completely different thoughts about it. So I think Amy's pretty much on the cusp of giving it up, and Flynn is sort of realizing she's pulling away and is thinking, I think I better propose to her and show real commitment. And of course, that is the perfect storm for the weekend. They're going off to sister's wedding weekend in Devon, in rural in the UK, and they get into an enormous storm, and on the way they bodies, as you do, and of course great fun. So we set it at a family wedding. We get told obviously that her sister's, who's her chief bridesmaid, is actually now, you know, her slightly useless boyfriend. Friends there, so we get to see the drama of what he's hiding from his past. There's a lot of they've both got various secret backstories that kind of get slowly revealed throughout the book. And so there's all sorts of comedy, there's all sorts of misunderstandings, there's all sorts of drama, and how they're viewing people. It just, everything gets sort of completely flipped on its head, and it is chaotic. It's quite uncomfortable at times. You feel quite sorry for points. But yeah, and it's set in Devon, where I was born, which is a really beautiful county, and the inspirational wedding venues, flamingos roaming around the lake, and there's all sorts of, you know, gorgeous spas and tennis courts and cricket pitches, and you know, it's just a lovely, lovely place for a wedding. Just had a real image of two people sort of in a row in a car, a wall of cows in front of the car. You know, they're lost, they're late, they're really annoyed with each other. Neither of them are listening to each other, and they get out of the car in the middle of this thunderstorm, and literally lightning just strikes them, and they get thrown back on the verge. And as they stand up, they are not in the correct body. And it was such a fun, you know, ridiculous scene where one of them, you know, thinks that they've died or passed on, and then realizes they haven't, and sees themselves coming towards them, and you know, just chaos of that moment. Yeah, it was really, really fun to write. And then immediately to try to reverse back, try and get struck by lightning basically again. So that's quite a fun added extra after that, not wanting to stay in the body, so immediately trying to basically get themselves killed. Yeah, it's just chaos, as I suppose it would be. And I think as a reader, you just have to go with, you know, go with the madness for a bit. I hope they're really relatable. And you can see that, you know, I mean, Groundhog Day can't happen, and I did that, so I figured that everyone would forgive me for swapping bodies as well. I did plot it, and I mean, the biggest concern for the book was actually, unlike maybe Next Time, where I think the question was always, how is this going to end? I think it was harder to do that in a body swap, and I definitely had to plot a lot of reveals and secrets and surprises, because otherwise I think, you know, it loses that tension. But yeah, there were moments where I thought, you know, they could swap back briefly, or they could stay stuck like this forever. You know, that would be very me, I think, after reading maybe Next Time, that I might do something horrible like that. But no, I definitely feel like things happened as they were, you know, supposed to happen in the book, and I hope it ends very satisfying. To be fair, is incredibly challenging, and I think I spent a lot of time having to put in markers to remind the reader, because of course you're in the character's head, and then suddenly your brain is saying, oh, hold on, they look like the other person, and that is actually really tricky. So there was a lot of hair flicking, and there's golf socks in it, and tiny little details that I hope allow the reader to go, oh yeah, he's her. And obviously try to give them distinctive voices and distinctive jargon, and just the syntax and the way they speak, to try to help the reader, remind the reader constantly that they're not each other. But yeah, it was definitely challenging to do that. Yeah, I definitely set myself a few things where I was like, oh, this is harder than I envisaged. It's trying to be truthful, but obviously try not to pigeonhole the genders too much as well, because obviously we have such a modern society, and we have men that, you know, we have all the people doing different roles and being a bit more emotionally available and all of this. But ultimately, like you said, I think there are certain things that you would just feel completely out of your depth. And so any man in a completely female circle of friends as bridesmaids, that is going to be, I think, unusual if you're not a man who's used to it. So I certainly created a man, Flynn, that there was a reason that he was so comfortable with other men and was used to a very kind of what I would call sort of traditionally masculine environment. And again, I hope, you know, it's explained that it's not all men. This is just Flynn, and this is what happens when you put Flynn in Amy's world, and this is what happens when you put Amy in Flynn's world. But it was great fun. I mean, you know, obviously certain moments. I think there's one scene where the sisters, like, the oldest like pulls her into a bathroom, and she's just talking to her. She's going to the loo, and of course, like, Flynn's just wanting to die, and I just was laughing at just these things that we do as women that we think is normal, but actually they just are so funny or awful when you put someone else in that situation that doesn't want to be there.